Have you ever felt like anxiety is controlling you, trapping you in an endless cycle of worries? What if I told you there's an ancient teaching that can help you break free from anxiety once and for all? In the next few minutes, you'll discover how a simple, yet powerful, lesson from Buddha has helped millions of people calm their minds and find inner peace. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll have a tool that can transform your life, and anxiety will become a thing of the past. Hey everyone, welcome back to Wisdom and Wealth. I'm excited to share some powerful insights with you today, especially for those of us navigating the challenges of midlife and beyond. If you're new here, consider liking and subscribing to this channel to support and encourage this Buddhist doctrine channel. We explore timeless wisdom and practical strategies to create a more fulfilling life. If you are returning, thanks for continuing to support Wisdom and Wealth. Buddhism is often viewed as a spiritual path, but its teachings can have profound practical applications in our everyday lives, whether or not we follow the religion. At its core, Buddhism is about understanding the mind and how our thoughts, emotions, and attachments shape our experience of the world. This understanding is particularly useful when it comes to managing anxiety and stress. The Buddha taught that suffering is an inevitable part of life, but that it doesn't need to control us. In fact, by examining the way we think and react, we can learn to reduce, or even eliminate, the suffering caused by our own minds. One of the most powerful aspects of Buddhism is the idea that our internal experiences, our thoughts, our fears, our desires, are often the root cause of the anxiety we feel. This means that by changing our relationship with these internal states, we can radically change how we experience life. You don't need to become a Buddhist monk or follow complex rituals to benefit from Buddhist teachings. The wisdom of the Buddha can be applied in very practical ways to everyday life, helping us cultivate mindfulness, compassion, and clarity. Buddhism teaches us how to approach life's challenges with calmness and equanimity, no matter what circumstances we face. This doesn't mean we can avoid pain, loss, or difficulties. Instead, it teaches us how to relate to these challenges in a way that doesn't overwhelm us. Buddhism offers us tools to help us develop a more peaceful, balanced, and clear-minded approach to life. These tools include meditation, mindfulness, and an understanding of impermanence, attachment, and the nature of our minds. In the upcoming sections, we'll explore how each of these teachings can help you reduce anxiety, find inner peace, and live a more fulfilled life. By applying the principles of Buddhism, you can break free from the patterns of fear and worry that often dominate your mind and experience life with greater clarity, compassion, and peace. And, remember, if you're finding value in this content, please consider liking and subscribing to the Buddhist Doctrine channel. Your support helps us bring more of this wisdom to you and others who need it. One of the most transformative teachings in Buddhism is the practice of mindfulness, or sati. Mindfulness is the art of being fully present in the moment, paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment or attachment. When we are mindful, we can observe our experiences without getting lost in them or overwhelmed by them. This practice allows us to step out of the cycle of anxiety and stress and, instead, live in a state of calm awareness. In the modern world, it's all too easy to get caught up in the endless demands of life. We are constantly thinking about the future, what needs to be done, what might go wrong, or dwelling on the past, mistakes we've made, things we wish we could change. This constant mental chatter is often at the root of anxiety. Our minds are rarely focused on the present moment, and as a result, we become disconnected from the world around us and from ourselves. Mindfulness teaches us to break free from this cycle by bringing our attention back to the present moment. When we focus on the here and now, we create space between ourselves and our thoughts. We begin to realize that thoughts, whether they are about the future or the past, are not our reality. They are simply mental events that come and go. By practicing mindfulness, we can stop identifying with these thoughts and start observing them without judgment. This might sound simple, but in practice, mindfulness requires patience and consistency. It's about training the mind to return to the present moment again and again. This doesn't mean that we force ourselves to stop thinking, It means that we gently acknowledge the thoughts that arise and then let them go without becoming entangled in them. Mindfulness can be practiced in any moment of your day, whether you're eating, walking, or even having a conversation. The key is to be fully present and engaged with whatever you're doing. For example, when you're eating, pay attention to the taste, texture, and smell of the food. If your mind starts to wander, gently bring your attention back to the experience of eating. This simple practice helps train your mind to stay in the present, and over time, it reduces the mental clutter that leads to anxiety. A powerful way to practice mindfulness is through mindful breathing. By focusing on our breath, we anchor ourselves to the present moment and create a sense of calm. Take a deep breath, and as you inhale, feel the air fill your lungs. As you exhale, feel the tension leave your body. This simple act of mindful breathing helps reset the nervous system, reduces stress, and brings us back to a state of clarity and peace. Mindfulness is not just about being present but also about cultivating awareness of our inner world. It's about becoming more conscious of the thoughts and emotions that arise within us and how we react to them. For example, when you feel anxiety start to build, instead of letting it take over, you can notice the physical sensations associated with it, tightness in the chest, shallow breathing, racing thoughts, and acknowledge them without judgment. By doing this, you take away the power that anxiety has over you. You are no longer controlled by it, you are simply observing it. This practice of observing without judgment is key to reducing anxiety. When we stop labeling our emotions as good or bad, we take away their power to control us. Emotions, including anxiety, are just experiences that arise in the mind. They don't define us, and they don't last forever. Through mindfulness, we learn to let go of our attachment to these emotions and let them come and go freely. As you incorporate mindfulness into your daily life, you'll begin to notice subtle shifts in how you experience the world. The constant pressure to do or achieve begins to fade, and you can simply be. You'll find that anxiety becomes less of a problem because your mind is no longer trapped in the future or the past. Instead, you are fully present with whatever is happening right now. Mindfulness also helps you cultivate a deep sense of gratitude. When we're caught up in anxiety, we often focus on what's wrong or what we fear will happen. Mindfulness invites us to shift our focus to what is right in the present moment, the breath in our lungs, the beauty of nature, the connection with others. This shift in focus not only reduces anxiety but also enhances our overall well-being. Through the power of mindfulness, you can learn to live with more clarity, calmness, and peace. You will be better equipped to handle life's challenges because you will no longer be swept away by the storms of anxiety and worry. Instead, you'll stand firm, grounded in the present moment, able to respond with wisdom and compassion. Now is a good time to like and subscribe to the Buddhist Doctrine channel, if you haven't already. In the next section, we'll explore how meditation can be a powerful tool to deepen your mindfulness practice and further reduce anxiety. Meditation is one of the most powerful tools for cultivating a calm mind and managing anxiety. At its core, meditation is about creating a space of stillness and awareness where we can observe our thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment. In Buddhism, meditation is not just a practice, it is a way of training the mind to be more focused, clear, and present. When we meditate, we intentionally quiet the noise of our daily lives, allowing us to step away from the constant stream of thoughts and distractions that often fuel our anxiety. It's like creating a moment of refuge for the mind, where we can find peace even in the midst of chaos. Many people think of meditation as sitting still for hours with a completely empty mind, but this is not the case. Meditation is a practice of observing the mind, not forcing it to be still. In fact, it's completely normal for thoughts to arise during meditation. The key is not to get caught up in them or react to them. Instead, we observe them with curiosity and awareness, knowing that they are simply temporary mental events that will pass. One of the most common meditation practices is shamatha meditation, which focuses on calming the mind and developing concentration. This is often done by focusing on the breath. When you sit down to meditate, find a quiet space where you can sit comfortably. Close your eyes and bring your attention to your breath. Focus on the sensation of the breath entering and leaving your body. Don't try to control your breath, just observe it. As you focus on the breath, you will likely notice that your mind starts to wander. This is completely normal. When this happens, simply bring your attention back to the breath. Each time you notice your mind wandering and gently return your focus to the breath, you are strengthening your ability to focus and calm the mind. Meditation helps to break the cycle of anxiety by teaching us to observe our thoughts without getting lost in them. When we're anxious, our minds often race with worries about the future or past. Meditation helps us slow down this mental chatter and create space between ourselves and our thoughts. We begin to realize that we are not our thoughts, we are the observer of our thoughts. This realization is incredibly liberating because it allows us to detach from anxiety and see it as just another passing experience, not something that defines us. Another powerful meditation technique is vipassana meditation, or insight meditation. This practice involves observing our thoughts and feelings with a deeper level of awareness. Instead of just focusing on the breath, we expand our attention to all of our bodily sensations, emotions, and mental states. The goal is to observe them without reacting, labeling, or judging them. We simply allow everything to arise and pass away naturally, like clouds drifting through the sky. Through this practice, we begin to see that everything, including our thoughts and emotions, is impermanent. This insight into the impermanence of all things is one of the key teachings of Buddhism. When we truly understand that our anxious thoughts will eventually pass, we can detach from them and stop feeding them with fear or resistance. Instead of pushing anxiety away or getting caught up in it, we simply observe it and allow it to come and go. Meditation also has a profound impact on our nervous system. Studies have shown that regular meditation can help reduce the physical symptoms of anxiety, such as rapid heart rate, shallow breathing, and muscle tension. By calming the mind, meditation also calms the body, creating a sense of overall relaxation and well-being. When practiced regularly, meditation can lead to lasting changes in the brain. Research has shown that long-term meditators have increased activity in areas of the brain associated with emotional regulation and self-awareness. This means that over time, meditation can help us respond to stress and anxiety more skillfully. We become less reactive and more able to stay calm and focused, even in challenging situations. If you're new to meditation, start with just a few minutes each day. Find a quiet space, sit comfortably, and focus on your breath. If your mind starts to wander, gently bring your focus back to the breath. Don't judge yourself for having thoughts, just notice them and let them go. Over time, you can gradually increase the length of your meditation sessions. Meditation is not a quick fix for anxiety, but with regular practice, it can significantly reduce the intensity and frequency of anxious thoughts. It's a practice that builds over time, and with patience and consistency, you'll start to notice profound changes in how you relate to anxiety. In the next section, we'll explore the concept of detachment and how learning to let go of our attachments can lead to freedom from suffering and anxiety. One of the core teachings of Buddhism is the concept of detachment. In the Buddhist view, attachment is the root of much of our suffering, including anxiety. Attachment doesn't just refer to clinging to material possessions, it extends to our relationships, our emotions, and even our ideas and beliefs. We become attached to the way we want things to be, and when reality doesn't match our expectations, we experience frustration, anxiety, and suffering. At its essence, detachment isn't about giving up everything or renouncing the world. It's about freeing ourselves from the need to control or possess things, whether they are people, experiences, or outcomes. Detachment means learning to relate to the world with openness and acceptance instead of fear and desire. We all have attachments in some form, whether it's to a specific outcome, a person's approval, or our own emotional state. For example, we may be attached to the idea that we must always be successful, happy, or in control. When things don't go as planned, or when anxiety arises, we feel disoriented and stressed. This is because our attachment to a specific idea of how things should be is disrupted. In Buddhism, one of the first steps in overcoming attachment is recognizing that everything is impermanent. The things we value, whether they're physical objects, relationships, or even our own emotions, are not permanent. Everything changes, and nothing lasts forever. When we understand the nature of impermanence, we begin to loosen our grip on the things we cling to. This doesn't mean that we should stop caring about things or people. It means that we learn to care without becoming obsessed or attached to outcomes. When we let go of attachment, we stop trying to control everything, and instead, we allow life to unfold as it will. This sense of freedom can be incredibly liberating. Let's take an example. Imagine that you're attached to the idea of a perfect job or relationship. You may spend a lot of energy worrying about maintaining this job or relationship, constantly fearing that it will end or that you will lose it. This attachment creates anxiety because it's based on the belief that you need to have control over this part of your life in order to feel secure. Now, imagine that you practice detachment. Instead of clinging to the idea of the perfect job or relationship, you learn to embrace whatever comes your way. If things change, you accept it as part of life. If the job ends or the relationship evolves, you approach it with grace, understanding that this change doesn't define your worth or happiness. You are free from the anxiety of holding on too tightly. The key to detachment is understanding that we don't own or control the things we become attached to. When we let go of this illusion of control, we open ourselves up to new experiences, new relationships, and new opportunities without the fear of losing them. A helpful practice for cultivating detachment is mindfulness, particularly mindfulness of thoughts and emotions. Often, we become attached to our thoughts, believing that they define us or are absolute truths. But thoughts are just mental events that arise and pass. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to observe our thoughts without becoming attached to them. If you have an anxious thought, instead of identifying with it and believing it to be true, you observe it as simply a passing thought. You let it go, and you return to the present moment. Detachment also applies to our emotions. When we feel anxiety, fear, or anger, we tend to identify with these emotions as if they are permanent parts of who we are. But emotions are just temporary states that come and go. When we detach from our emotions, we stop seeing them as defining us. Instead, we acknowledge them as temporary experiences that don't need to control our behavior or our peace of mind. Another powerful way to practice detachment is through the concept of non-attachment in relationships. This doesn't mean that we stop loving or caring for others, but rather that we stop trying to control or possess them. When we learn to love without attachment, we allow others to be who they are without imposing our expectations or desires on them. This creates a healthier, more peaceful dynamic in relationships, free from the anxiety of needing to control or change others. Detachment is a process that takes time and practice. It doesn't happen overnight, but with consistent effort, you will begin to feel less burdened by attachment and more at ease with the flow of life. You'll find that anxiety diminishes as you learn to embrace life as it comes without clinging to specific outcomes or expectations. And once again, if you're finding this content helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to the Buddhist Doctrine channel to show your support and help us reach more people. In the next section, we'll explore the role of compassion in reducing anxiety and improving our relationships. Compassion is a vital part of Buddhist practice and can have a profound impact on our mental and emotional well-being. Compassion is one of the most powerful tools we can use to reduce anxiety and improve our relationships with others. In Buddhism, compassion is not just about feeling sympathy or empathy for others, it's about actively wishing for others to be free from suffering and helping them in whatever way we can. Compassion helps us connect with others on a deeper level, and it's a crucial part of reducing the mental and emotional barriers that anxiety creates. When we're anxious, we often focus inwardly, caught in the web of our own worries and fears. We become preoccupied with our own discomfort, and this can make it difficult to connect with others in a meaningful way. But when we practice compassion, we shift our focus away from ourselves and toward the well-being of others. This shift in focus can help ease our own anxiety because it reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles. Compassion begins with ourselves. In Buddhism, one of the first teachings on compassion is learning to be kind to ourselves. Too often, when we feel anxious or stressed, we beat ourselves up for not being able to handle things better. We criticize ourselves for feeling weak or incapable, which only increases our anxiety. However, the practice of self-compassion invites us to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a friend. When we are compassionate with ourselves, we acknowledge that it's okay to feel anxious or upset. These emotions are a natural part of the human experience. Rather than fighting or judging ourselves for having these feelings, we allow them to be. Self-compassion allows us to create space for these emotions to exist without letting them control us. When we are kind to ourselves in this way, anxiety begins to lose its grip, and we can move forward with a greater sense of peace. The next step in compassion is extending this kindness to others. Buddhism teaches that compassion should not be limited to those who are close to us but should extend to all beings. This doesn't mean that we need to take on the suffering of others or try to solve all their problems. It simply means that we wish for others to find peace and freedom from suffering, and we take actions, both big and small, to support them in this process. When we practice compassion toward others, it changes the way we interact with them. Rather than viewing others through the lens of judgment or competition, we begin to see them as fellow human beings who are struggling in their own ways. We recognize that everyone is doing the best they can with what they have. This understanding fosters empathy and connection, making our relationships deeper and more fulfilling. Compassion also helps us navigate conflict with more ease. When we're anxious, it's easy to react defensively or with frustration when things go wrong. But when we approach conflicts with compassion, we can stay calm and open-minded. We can listen to others without judgment and respond with understanding rather than reacting from a place of fear or anxiety. Another important aspect of compassion is forgiveness. Holding on to grudges or resentment only increases our own suffering. When we forgive others, we free ourselves from the burden of anger and hurt. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it means releasing ourselves from the need to hold on to negative emotions. It's a way of choosing peace over conflict, and it's essential for reducing anxiety in our relationships. In practice, compassion can be cultivated through simple actions like offering a kind word, a listening ear, or helping someone in need. It can also be practiced through meditation. One well-known Buddhist practice for cultivating compassion is called loving-kindness meditation, or metta meditation. In this practice, we focus on sending well wishes to ourselves and others. We start by silently repeating phrases like, "May I be happy, may I be free from suffering," and then extend those wishes to others, gradually including loved ones, acquaintances, and even people with whom we have difficulties. Research has shown that practicing compassion, both for ourselves and others, has a profound impact on our well-being. People who regularly engage in compassionate acts report lower levels of stress, greater life satisfaction, and even improved physical health. This is because compassion reduces the stress response in the body and helps create a sense of connection and belonging. Compassion is also a powerful antidote to anxiety. When we are consumed by our own fears and worries, we often feel isolated and alone. But when we practice compassion, we recognize that we are all interconnected. Our suffering is not unique to us, it is a shared experience. By extending compassion to others, we begin to dissolve the walls of separation that fuel anxiety, and we find peace in our shared humanity. As you incorporate compassion into your daily life, you will begin to notice a shift in how you interact with the world. Your relationships will deepen, your sense of connection will grow, and your anxiety will begin to diminish. Compassion is not just a feeling, it's a way of living, a way of engaging with the world that brings peace, joy, and freedom. In the next section, we'll explore how to manage stress using Buddhist wisdom and how simple practices can help you cope with the pressures of life. Now please like and subscribe to the Buddhist Doctrine channel to help others find it and to support this effort. Stress is an inevitable part of life. Whether it's the pressure of work, relationship challenges, or personal goals, stress often arises when we feel overwhelmed by the demands of the world around us. In Buddhism, stress is not viewed as something to eliminate completely but rather as something to understand and manage skillfully. By applying Buddhist principles, we can learn to cope with stress in a way that reduces its negative impact and helps us maintain peace and balance. The first step in managing stress, according to Buddhism, is recognizing its root cause, attachment and craving. When we become attached to certain outcomes or desires, we create mental tension and stress. For example, if we're attached to the idea of success or perfection, we may experience stress when things don't go as planned. Similarly, if we're attached to the idea of avoiding discomfort or failure, we may become stressed when we face challenges. Buddhism teaches us that attachment to outcomes is a major source of suffering. The more we cling to an ideal or expectation, the more stressed we become when things don't go our way. One of the most important teachings in Buddhism is the practice of non-attachment, which is not about giving up everything but about letting go of the need to control every aspect of life. When we learn to approach life with less attachment, we experience less stress and more freedom. Another key Buddhist teaching for managing stress is mindfulness. When we are mindful, we are fully present in the moment without getting lost in thoughts about the past or future. Stress often arises when we are consumed by worries about what might happen or by regrets about what has already happened. Mindfulness allows us to step out of that cycle and focus on the present moment, where there is no room for stress. Practicing mindfulness can be as simple as paying attention to our breath or to the sensations in our body. By focusing on our breath, we create a natural anchor that helps calm the nervous system and break the cycle of stress. If you're feeling stressed, take a moment to pause and focus on your breathing. Inhale deeply, hold for a few seconds, and then exhale slowly. This simple practice can help shift your attention away from stress and bring your mind back to a state of calm. Buddhism also teaches us to view stress as an opportunity for growth. Instead of seeing stress as something to avoid, we can use it as a tool for self-awareness. When we feel stressed, it's a sign that we're becoming attached to something, whether it's a result, a situation, or an expectation. This awareness can help us pause and reflect on what we're really attached to and whether it's worth holding on to. By practicing detachment, we can reduce the impact of stress and approach life with a more balanced perspective. Another important Buddhist practice for managing stress is loving-kindness meditation, or metta meditation. This practice involves sending goodwill and kindness to ourselves and others. When we're stressed, we often become self-critical, and our inner dialogue can become harsh. Loving-kindness meditation helps us shift from self-judgment to self-compassion. By repeating phrases like, "May I be happy, may I be at peace," we remind ourselves that we are deserving of love and kindness, regardless of our circumstances. As we extend this loving kindness to others, we begin to dissolve feelings of separation and resentment that can contribute to stress. Rather than viewing others as obstacles to our peace, we see them as fellow beings who are also navigating the complexities of life. This shift in perspective helps reduce the tension and frustration that can arise in stressful situations. Finally, Buddhism teaches that everything is impermanent. This understanding can be incredibly helpful when managing stress. When we are stressed, it's easy to feel like the situation will never end, but everything, both positive and negative, is temporary. The key to managing stress is to remember that the stress you're feeling now will pass. By keeping this in mind, you can avoid becoming overwhelmed and can approach stress with a sense of equanimity. In practice, you can remind yourself of impermanence whenever you feel stressed. Acknowledge the discomfort, but don't get caught up in it. Remember that it's just a passing experience. With this understanding, stress becomes less threatening and easier to manage. By integrating these Buddhist practices into your daily life, you can learn to manage stress in a way that is both effective and compassionate. You'll find that stress no longer has the same power over you, and you'll develop a deeper sense of peace and resilience. In the next section, we'll explore how the concept of karma and responsibility plays a role in reducing stress and improving our overall well-being. In Buddhism, one of the most profound teachings is the law of karma, which refers to the principle of cause and effect. Karma is the idea that every action we take, whether in thought, word, or deed, creates an effect, either positive or negative, that will eventually return to us. This law is central to understanding how our actions shape our lives and how we can take responsibility for our own happiness and well-being. Karma is often misunderstood as a form of cosmic punishment or reward, but in Buddhist thought, karma is simply the natural law of cause and effect. Every action, no matter how small, has consequences. When we act with kindness, compassion, and mindfulness, we create positive karma, which leads to greater peace and happiness. On the other hand, when we act out of greed, anger, or ignorance, we create negative karma, which can lead to suffering and anxiety. The concept of karma is closely tied to the idea of responsibility. In Buddhism, we are responsible for our own actions, and we have the power to change our future by changing our present behavior. This is a deeply empowering idea. We are not victims of fate or external circumstances. We have the ability to shape our experiences by how we act in the world. When we understand the connection between our actions and their consequences, we take responsibility for our own mental and emotional well-being. Karma is not just about the actions we take toward others, it's also about how we treat ourselves. Self-criticism, anger, and harsh judgment create negative karma, while self-compassion, forgiveness, and understanding create positive karma. When we are kind to ourselves and practice self-care, we generate positive energy that improves our own well-being and radiates outward, influencing the world around us in a positive way. One of the most powerful aspects of the law of karma is that it gives us control over our future. If we are struggling with anxiety, stress, or difficult situations, we can look at the actions we are taking and reflect on whether they are creating positive or negative karma. Are we reacting to life's challenges with patience and understanding, or are we letting anger, fear, or frustration drive our behavior? By cultivating positive actions and thoughts, we can begin to change the course of our lives. Karma also teaches us about the impermanence of life. Just as positive and negative actions have consequences, they are also temporary. Even if we have created negative karma in the past, we have the ability to change it through our current actions. The past does not define us. We are constantly creating our future through our choices in the present moment. Another important lesson from the concept of karma is the importance of mindfulness in our actions. When we are mindful of our thoughts, words, and actions, we can act more consciously and with greater compassion. This awareness helps us avoid negative patterns of behavior that create suffering and, instead, encourages us to act in ways that promote peace and happiness for ourselves and others. Karma is not just about individual actions, it also encompasses the interconnectedness of all beings. The way we treat others has a profound impact on our own well-being. When we practice kindness and compassion toward others, we are creating positive karma not just for them but for ourselves as well. The energy we put into the world comes back to us in unexpected ways. It's important to note that karma is not about instantaneous results. The effects of our actions may not be immediately apparent, but they will eventually come back to us. This long-term perspective helps us understand that even when we face challenges, we can trust that the seeds of kindness, compassion, and mindfulness we plant today will eventually bear fruit. The law of karma encourages us to live with awareness, responsibility, and compassion. It teaches us that every action, no matter how small, has an impact. By taking responsibility for our actions, we can create a life that is more peaceful, harmonious, and free from the suffering that anxiety often brings. In the next section, we will explore how the Buddhist concept of impermanence helps us cope with change and flow more easily through life's ups and downs. One of the central teachings of Buddhism is the concept of impermanence, or anicca. Impermanence refers to the idea that everything in life is constantly changing. Nothing is fixed or permanent, from the fleeting nature of our emotions to the changes in our relationships to the rise and fall of material things. This understanding can be incredibly liberating, especially when it comes to managing anxiety, stress, and the uncertainty of life. At first glance, the idea of impermanence may seem unsettling. We often want to hold on to things in life that bring us comfort, whether it's a stable job, a fulfilling relationship, or even a sense of peace and happiness. However, when we cling to the idea that things should stay the same, we create an inner tension that leads to stress and anxiety. The truth is that nothing in life stays the same forever, and when we try to force things to remain unchanged, we only increase our suffering. When we learn to embrace impermanence, we begin to see life as a fluid and ever-changing process rather than a series of fixed and static events. This perspective allows us to flow with life instead of resisting it. When we can accept that everything, both good and bad, is temporary, we free ourselves from the fear of loss and the pressure to maintain control over every aspect of our lives. This understanding of impermanence is particularly useful in dealing with anxiety. Anxiety often arises when we fear that something will be lost or that a situation will remain uncomfortable forever. But when we recognize that all things are transient, we can let go of our attachment to particular outcomes. The fear of loss dissipates when we understand that change is inevitable and that the discomfort we're experiencing will pass. For example, when we face difficult emotions such as anxiety or sadness, impermanence reminds us that these emotions are not permanent. They are simply temporary states that will eventually fade. When we allow ourselves to fully experience the emotion without clinging to it or resisting it, we give ourselves the space to heal. Rather than trying to push away negative feelings, we accept them as part of the human experience, knowing that they too will pass. This understanding of impermanence also helps us handle life's uncertainties with more grace. Life is full of unexpected changes, whether it's the loss of a loved one, a job change, or a shift in our personal goals. By understanding that change is a natural part of life, we can approach these challenges with greater resilience. Instead of fearing change, we learn to adapt and flow with it. We accept that the only constant in life is change itself, and when we embrace this, we find peace amidst the chaos. Another way to incorporate the idea of impermanence into your life is through mindfulness. Mindfulness helps us observe the present moment without judgment, and it teaches us to be aware of the transitory nature of our experiences. When we meditate on impermanence, we can reflect on the fact that both pleasant and unpleasant experiences are fleeting. This allows us to appreciate the good moments more fully while also reducing the impact of the difficult ones. The practice of mindfulness also helps us recognize how our attachment to permanence creates unnecessary suffering. For example, when we cling to a particular relationship or job, we create anxiety around the possibility of losing it. But when we remember that everything is impermanent, we can appreciate the experience without being fearful of its end. We learn to appreciate life as it is rather than always striving to make it something it's not. Ultimately, understanding impermanence frees us from the fear of change and loss. It helps us live with more equanimity, accepting life's fluctuations with a sense of peace and acceptance. This doesn't mean we don't care about the things we love or value. It means that we stop clinging to them and allow ourselves to experience life with greater freedom. In the next section, we'll explore how to integrate Buddhist philosophy into our daily routines, turning these teachings into practical tools for living a more peaceful and balanced life. By making these practices a part of your everyday life, you can cultivate a sense of calm, resilience, and clarity that will help you navigate life's challenges with ease. And remember, if you find this content valuable, please like and subscribe to the Buddhist Doctrine channel so we can continue sharing this wisdom with others. Now that we've explored several key Buddhist teachings, you might be wondering how to bring them into your daily life. While Buddhist philosophy may seem profound or abstract at first, it offers practical tools that can be applied in even the most mundane aspects of life. The key to transforming your life through Buddhist wisdom is consistency and mindfulness in integrating these practices into your daily routine. One of the simplest ways to begin is by incorporating mindfulness into everyday activities. You don't need to meditate for hours to experience the benefits of mindfulness. It's about being fully present in whatever you're doing, whether it's eating, walking, or engaging in a conversation. For example, when you're eating, focus on the taste, texture, and smell of the food. Avoid distractions like your phone or TV. By doing this, you not only enhance the experience of eating, but you also train your mind to be more present and less distracted by anxiety or worries. Another easy way to integrate mindfulness is through mindful breathing. The breath is always with us, so we can use it as an anchor to bring us back to the present moment whenever we feel overwhelmed or anxious. Take a few deep, conscious breaths when you're feeling stressed and focus on the sensations of the air entering and leaving your body. This simple practice can quickly calm the nervous system and bring clarity to the mind. Meditation is also an important part of a daily routine, but it doesn't need to be long or complicated. Start with just 5 or 10 minutes each day. Find a quiet space, sit comfortably, and focus on your breath. If your mind starts to wander, gently bring your attention back to your breath. Over time, you can gradually increase the length of your meditation practice. Even brief moments of meditation can help reduce anxiety, increase focus, and bring a sense of calm to your day. In addition to mindfulness and meditation, the practice of compassion can be integrated into your daily interactions with others. Start by being kind to yourself. This means practicing self-compassion when you make mistakes or experience difficulties. Instead of criticizing yourself, treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a friend. Self-compassion helps reduce stress and anxiety and improves your overall emotional well-being. Next, extend compassion to others. Whether it's a smile, a kind word, or a small gesture of help, compassion can transform the way you relate to others. It reduces feelings of separation and creates a sense of connection. When you approach interactions with an open heart and a genuine desire to understand others, you'll find that your relationships become more meaningful and your anxiety lessens. Another way to integrate Buddhist philosophy into your routine is by practicing detachment in everyday situations. This doesn't mean detaching from life or people, but rather letting go of the need to control everything. For example, if you're in a stressful situation, such as a difficult conversation at work, practice letting go of your attachment to the outcome. Instead of trying to control what happens, focus on being present and responding with equanimity, without getting attached to the result. This helps reduce anxiety and fosters a more peaceful and balanced approach to life's challenges. Finally, remember to incorporate the wisdom of impermanence into your daily life. Whenever you're faced with